Ooh. Okay, I guess we'll get started. Welcome, everybody, to the March 9th, 2026 regular city council meeting. And with that, I would ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor McLaughlin.
Here.
Counselor Ring.
Present.
Counselor Randall.
Present.
Counselor Richardson.
Present.
Counselor Runyon.
Present.
Mayor Mays.
Here. Item 3 is Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to call on Councilor Rod Runyon to please
Please stand if you're physically
pledge.
able. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tim, could you turn the flag so it's flying into the room, please? Not to the wall. Thank you.
Item 4 is approval of the agenda. We do have one change that everybody will be very happy with. There is no executive session, item 11. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second the motion.
Been moved by Councilor Ring and seconded by Councilor Randall to approve the agenda as amended. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5A, proclamation in support of the Dalles Stand Down event. And, come forward. Hi. Introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chelsea Parrott. I am your.
Sit down. Okay.
Sit down and relax.
Okay.
while.
Yeah.
I'll hang out a while. Okay. Good evening, council members. My name is Chelsea Parrott. I am your local veteran service officer here for Wasco County. Want me to go forward?
Please.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I am here tonight to ask for your support in this year's 2026 Veterans Stand Down. The last time we did a stand down was in 2024. It was on a Wednesday, and we had a very amazing turnout, and we are hoping for 2026 to have it even bigger. So more veterans and their families. We are definitely expecting more vendors and community members. We're asking to host this in Lewis and Clark Park. I believe the time is going to be from 11 to 1. I think that's a really good time after speaking with several people. Our focus will be on medical, dental, housing, employment, education, and more. So the goal is to have vendors and community partners from each of those entities there to help and service veterans. And we are in an outdoor space, so it's not going to be a lot of like one-on-one appointment times, but more of like gathering information and seeing what's available. And then that way between the veteran and whomever, they can make an appointment or get together at a time that works best for the both of them. But I think it's important that our veterans and community members know what is available and what's out there as far as resources. So that's what a stand down is a resource event.
And we have a proclamation you'd like us to pass tonight? I guess you don't need a motion to do that, do you? You just read it and I got all that power. I can just declare it, right? Okay, I'll read the proclamation, okay?
Thank you.
All right, in recognition of the stand-on event, whereas the city of the Dalles deeply values the service, courage, and sacrifice of our nation's veterans, active duty service members, National Guard, reservists, and their families. And whereas stand-down events across the country provide critical support to veterans by connecting them with essential services, including housing resources, healthcare, employment assistance, behavioral health support, benefits counseling, and community programs. And whereas the stand-down event in the Dalles brings together local government agencies, nonprofit organizations, volunteers, and community partners to offer compassionate, one-stop access to assistance for those who have served our nation. And whereas many veterans in our region face challenges related to housing stability, health, employment, and reintegration. And the stand down event serves as an important step toward meeting these needs with dignity and respect. And whereas the city of the Dalles recognizes the significance of supporting veterans, not just on a single day, but throughout the year, and honors the dedication of those who work to ensure that veterans receive the care and services they deserve. Now, therefore, on the 9th day of March 2026, I, Richard A. Mays, Mayor of the City of the Dalles, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim in full support for the stand-on event in the Dalles and encourages all community members, service providers, and organizations to recognize the importance of this event and to join in honoring, supporting, and uplifting our veterans.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
And if anybody has questions, they can reach me via email or at the Veteran Service Office at the county building. Yes, sir.
May I just ask one?
Please. Yes.
What's the date for that event?
It's going to be May 16th, 2026, which is a Saturday.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Of course. Are there any other questions?
So, Runyon, did you have a question? I thought I.
Just a recognition that Chelsea is a Marine, 17 years. She served our country, and I really appreciate that.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. And just a quick side note, if I may, I would really like to give special recognition to special community members who have already donated goods and services and have committed to supporting our stand down. Tanya Brumley with Northwest Natural, Jared Snyder with All Seasons Carpet Cleaning and Restoration, Shannon Sheets with Gorge Legacy Law, Tammy Dirks with Bicoastal Media, and Matt Harages with Optimus Printers. So we thank them.
Great. We thank them too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Item 5B is the brownfield revitalization in the Dalles presentation. Mr. Jake Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor Mays, members of the council. Thank you so much for having me this evening. Well, I'm here to talk about brownfield revitalization. This is one of our most successful grant programs we've been hosting here at the City of the Dalles for quite a few years. Not a problem. While things are being strange on the screen, I can tell you a little, what are brownfields? So you've got greenfields and brownfields. Greenfields are areas that are going to be developed. They've never been developed before. They're the places that are really easy to develop. Your brownfields are about the opposite. They are areas that have been contaminated, areas that have been built upon. It could be in the Dalles, areas that are over 100 years old that have who knows what in the ground and in the buildings and in the soil. So where did us all started? Brownfield started with a $25,000 Business Oregon integrated planning grant. And what we found from that planning grant was that we have a lot of need in the Dalles for brownfield revitalization. So what we did is we worked with our partners, the port and the county, and we got a $600,000 coalition assessment grant. And that was from 2020 to 2024. That grant was successful, and we successfully did projects all throughout the county. McKed had then applied for a planning grant, and they're continuing to do brownfield assessments over Sherman, Wasco, and Hood River counties. And there was such a need that the Dalles, we struck out on our own, and we applied for a grant in 2023. If you'd go to the next slide, please. Now we can go to the next slide too. And we received a $500,000 EPA planning grant. And part of the goals of this is we want to do phase 1 ESAs and phase 2 ESAs. So that's your environmental assessments. Your site assessment on a phase 1 is looking at the historical record. So our contractor, Stantec, will go through and look at the old photos, look at the old maps from dating all the way back to the early 1900s. And we're looking to see if any of these sites that we're looking at have underground storage tanks, if there's anything inside the building like asbestos that we could know of from that historical documentation. I would say the vast majority of phase one assessments end up having to go into a phase two assessment where we actually do on the ground look. So on a lot of these projects, we'll have to do underground borings to see if there's been a release, and that's what your phase two assessment is. If there's been an oil tank or a fuel tank that was in the ground, because a lot of the downtown buildings were heated by oil at one point, what we'll do is we'll pull the tank out, and then we'll do the assessment and we'll check underneath the ground from there. So I guess what I should have started with is how do you get on the brownfield assessment list? And so online, anyone can go online and apply for their location to do a phase one assessment or phase two assessment if they've already had a phase one assessment done. And what we're doing, and the question is why would somebody do it? And if you want to sell property downtown the Dalles, you pretty much have to, the lenders will require you to have an assessment done. And these assessments are not cheap. It can, for a phase one, it can be 5 to 15,000. For a phase two, it can be 15 to 25,000 real easy. And so when you're looking at selling property downtown, this grant program goes a long ways to covering those costs that someone probably far in the past created an issue that now we know may or may not need to be cleaned up. We also need to do community meetings and community outreach. So thank you very much for allowing me to present. So this is one of the 8 community meetings. As well as we're also looking at regulated building materials. So inside the building, we have one building that's interested, business owner, building owner downtown that's looking at removing one of the buildings from the back of their lot. And in order to do that demo, they have to go in there and do a regulated building material survey. This grant can help cover the cost of that so that it's not borne by the person who's trying to do cleanup. We can go to the next slide, please. Here's a list of some of the projects that we have done to date. I'm not going to read them. You can read them on there. The good news is of our goals and requirements to get 12 phase one assessments done, we're already done with 7. Our phase two assessments were already 6, so we're already half of the way through where we need to be on a 4-year grant. And you can go to the next page. Here's a picture of what it looks like in the real world when we're doing a phase two assessment. When we know that there's a fuel tank, we can go in there, and it's one of the few times we can actually fix the problem immediately because what they found in the program is it's easier to just pull the tank than it is to drill through the center of the tank and then take your sample underneath it. Your phase one and phase two assessments are not cleanup grants. The goal is to get us to where we know whether it needs to be cleaned up or not. I can gladly say that most phase twos that we've been doing, we've been able to remediate the problem without having to work with the applicants or the owners to go through the cleanup program so far. Next slide. Here's where we're at. We have a $445,000 contract with Stantec, and we've spent $164,000. So we're doing a really good job of not spending a whole lot of money and working through our goals. We'll be able to do more projects with this program than we had initially anticipated, which is going to be good. And we had a large number that we did last year in 2025, because in 2024, we had a gap year where we were able to get people who were interested in the Brownsfields program, but we didn't have the money to pay for it. It took a while to bring the applicants on board. I think we skipped that one, which is okay. And then we have our small indirect and city expenses of $50,000. If you go to the next slide, here's another picture of what it looks like. Farm stand was a previous example of our program where we thought there'd just be a couple tanks, and then we found out there were quite a few tanks in the ground. We got a lot of those cleaned up through the Brownfields program, and that saved the new owners of the farm stand a significant amount of money so that they could go into business without having that debt on their books. Any questions?
Questions for Jake? Council Runyon.
Just to clarify, and I think you just said it, these are grants, so we're not going to be looking for payback by either a seller or a buyer. They're grants.
So the Brownsfield program, we are paying, the city is paying for the contractor to do the phase 1 and phase 2 assessments. It is, so there's no reimbursement. The owners of the property don't have to pay anything. It's really simple. And then we submit to the EPA for reimbursement. So it makes it a very clean process. There's no loans. It's correct.
Yeah, so thus the savings economically for a business that wants to come in
Yes.
or somebody who wants to sell.
Yeah, and so, from it can be either side, right? The seller needs to have that completed. If the buyer is going to get a bank loan at any time, if you own a building downtown, you could do a private sale between you and somebody else with cash, and you wouldn't have to do any of the environmental assessments. If there's going to be a bank involved, so usually when a buyer wants to come and do something new, that's when the brownfields really kicks in. So what I could ask from all of you is sending out a letter. Mass marketing for this program isn't successful, we found. The best way of success is through word of mouth, through talking to the building owners and the business owners and any people that you know that are potentially thinking about selling in the next year or two. The time frame, it's never good to apply for the Brownfields grant when there's a buyer in hand, because that can add 3 months if you have to go through a phase 2 assessment. So if somebody's thinking about selling in the future, it's best to come in, apply now while we have the funds, and then you can have that checked off for your sale.
Do they come to our planning department to find out if it's been done, or how do they find out when the bank's asking for, qualifications and whatnot? Where's the business owner, seller, buyer go to find out?
So the person who's selling the property should know whether there's been one done. It should be in all their files. That is one way. When we do find people will come to the planning department with questions about selling property, buyers can come in and then they will direct them to my department. The brownfield, there's no online database where you can just go and look and see unless you want to go through all the EPA files and start searching online deep in their archives. There's no easy way to find out. And so that's, luckily we've done a good job training the local realtors to know, like, if you're going to have a buyer, this is something that you want to be included in.
Yeah.
Council Ring.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. What's the timeline on the spending the rest of the money? Is there a date by which we can't spend any more of the funds?
So 2028 is the end of the grant. We can apply for an extension if there's any dollars left. What we found is from the first year, I'm right on track for not having any money left.
Anybody else? Thank you very much, Jake.
Thank you.
Item 6 is audience participation. During this portion of the meeting, anyone may speak on any subject which does not later appear on the agenda. Interested citizens are required to sign up in advance to be recognized. Up to 3 minutes per person will be allowed. Citizens are encouraged to ask questions with the understanding that the city can either answer the question tonight or refer that question to the appropriate staff member who will get back to you within a reasonable amount of time. If a response by the city is requested and that response is not immediately provided, the speaker will be referred to the city manager for further action. Our first person signed up out of 3 is Mr. Chuck Gomez, who wants to give us an update on the beautification committee. And I would ask the city council to allow Mr. Gomez to waive the 3 minutes because of his service on the committee. Any objections?
How much time do you need, Chuck?
5 minutes. Fine. Good evening, City Council and ladies and gentlemen of the community sitting behind me. I'm Chuck Gomez from the Granada Theater, making our first monthly report of the Beautification Committee. The first thing I would like to address is the West Side Grant, the state grant and labor grant that was made available from the program through the Department of Land Conservation and Development in Oregon. This was a $300,000 grant applicable to the west side of town for trees, for the labor, for the associated materials, and for ongoing labor maintenance. Well, we were able to reach several levels of acceptance, but ultimately did not receive the grant. However, the grant is recurring and we are in good place to apply and try for it again next time it becomes available. But before I leave the West Side Grant Program material, I would like to give a shout out to Deb Ferrer from our Beautification Committee, who worked tirelessly, literally dozens and dozens of hours in Zoom meetings, in personal meetings, in telephone calls, in hundreds of emails and research, putting this grant together. And it was her due diligence that really brought us right up to the goal line in receiving this $300,000 grant. So we all in the community owe Deb a big thank you for her endeavor on this grant approach. As far as the community and beautifications tree giveaway program, we had a little money left over in the budget, and we have voted and decided to use those funds for the purchase of trees that are going to be installed and planted at our grade school and at the Fort Dalles Museum. So there was a need in both of those municipal places and historic locations, and the Beautification Committee has stepped up to the plate to spend the rest of their tree grant money for trees a little larger than the ones that normally go to the community, and to purchase trees for those two locations, which I again think is a very honorable and dedicated program. And as we drive through town, you know, the Beautification Committee worked tirelessly last year on the Trevitt Triangle. Has anyone noticed how beautiful that triangle is looking? It has really stepped up. What a great asset to the community and beautification for our town. And with that as our first example for a triangle commercial renovation, we are now working on the roundabout at the Lewis and Clark Park, at the east end of the parking lot area. There's a small roundabout of about 33 feet in diameter, and it already has water for irrigation, I believe. And we hope to have as wonderful of a final product at the roundabout at Lewis and Clark as we did at the Trevitt Triangle. So that is good news on the horizon for the Beautification Committee. And from a personal note, I am very proud and pleased and honored to be on the Beautification Committee. Now, on a side note, there seems to have been, from neighbors of the Granada Theater discussing it with me, there seems to have been a rise in the rodent population downtown, mice, rats, rodents, and things. And before the city addresses a concern about that and maybe adds more poison boxes or rat traps or something, I would think more of an environmental approach, that if we were to install 30 to 50 owl boxes in the trees, on rooftops, in the community, a small project that I think the community college could help with, building boxes. There are 14 types of owls that are indigenous to Wasco County. One owl accounts for approximately 3,000 rodents, mice, and rats a year. If we could get 30 or 40 owls living in the downtown, it's literally invisible because they're mostly out at night. The boxes are hidden on in trees and on rooftops. And I think this would be a very environmentally friendly way to keep and maintain a rodent population at its lowest numbers in the downtown area. And speaking of owls, I'd like to just in closing address our Poot Fest that we had the other day. So the Granada was a small part of the Hoot Fest, and I'm not going to take any thunder away from the director and organizer who was here to speak on it also. But the Granada had 400 registered attendees for Friday night, 400 registered attendees for Saturday night, for a total of 800 people into the Granada Theater for a totally free concert that people came from all over the country and Europe to attend this event and visit our great community of the Dalles. Now, we had the fire chief in the Granada ahead of time to walk through and make sure everything was acceptable and up to code, that we wouldn't have any issues. We had extra security. We had extra ushers, assistants, and fire spotters in the theater. And then on Sunday, yesterday, we had the United States Air Force Band, brass band of the Golden West, perform free of charge a Veterans Dedication concert at the Granada, which saw nearly 1,000 people for free concerts over that 3-day weekend. And that absolutely is a benefit and a boost to the tourism efforts that I and many people in the community have been working towards and addressing. So we had 110, many veterans and friends and family of veterans for the brass band yesterday. And I have to say, it was absolutely glorious to hear those men performing much patriotic and programmatic music in the afternoon at 2:00. And that concludes my report to the chamber. And thank you very much.
Any questions for Mr. Gomez?
Yeah, I do. Downtown trees, how are they looking? You know, we did replant. We had some problems with trees dying and we replaced. How's that program going?
Well, they have been replaced, and that was those concerns were addressed in the replacing of many of those trees. And let's not exclude the old growth trees that we have along the sidewalks. And I have sent an email to Matt previously a month or two ago that some of those trees are doing so well, the older trees. Look at the trees along the Granada on Washington Street. Some of those are in need of pruning so they don't get too tall, so they don't overhang and become a safety hazard onto the sidewalk. But I think the arborists that replace those trees have really stepped up to the plate the second time around, and the trees seem to be doing much better. And they're budding out well, and I hope they continue. But we're keeping our eyes on it and hope to notify the company if anything looks a little down and out before it gets too out of hand.
Mr. Mayor, if I may add.
Sure.
So we had to build upon what Mr. Gomez is adding here. We have a 3-year contract with Davies Trees, who installed and replaced the trees, and then we're charged with maintaining those trees for a 3-year period. This will be the 3rd year. And so we are working to procure equipment and whatnot needed to continue maintaining the downtown street trees. We also have the first streetscaping project moving forward, which will also have street trees. And as Mr. Gomez noted, there's a few trees in the downtown area, the First Street parking lot, and a few others that we need to continually take care of and trim up as they grow. So it's a good problem, I guess you could say, that we are increasing the tree canopy in the downtown because we'll have to have more resources to maintain and take care of them. But ultimately, that's one of the objectives for that downtown core, to have that nice shaded environment, a more pleasant and welcoming downtown, a little bit of a softer downtown with, a more concrete kind of environment. So with the support of the Beautification and Tree Committee, I have high hopes that we'll continue to see them improve over the years.
So when,
And we have lost some trees that were cut down in the small sitting park area right around the corner from the bakery, from Angel's Bakeria. Right there on the alley, and there were some trees that were cut down at the parking lot on Washington and First. And in the email to Matt, I did bring that up and was informed that as the First Street project continues, hopefully those trees are in line for replacement. Those trees that were cut down to be replaced. So we look forward to all of those new plantings to take place in the town, hopefully this year.
Council Ring?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quick question for the beautification committee. Last year downtown, you guys had a selection for downtown businesses to get like more, I think it was planter boxes and
Yeah, sidewalk grant.
the sidewalk grant. Is there, I'm curious, is there another evolution of that this spring? And is there a way to identify those businesses? I walk downtown from time to time, and it's was scratching my head like which businesses were doing stuff on their own and which ones were bolstered by the beautification community to put some greenery outside their shops and whatnot.
Well, last year we brought up the efforts for sidewalk grants downtown, and we asked for $3,000 to be budgeted and received that. And we set a limit of $300 for pots, soil, wood chips, plants, watering, offset your water bills, whatever the case was, a $300. And being the skeptic that I am or was on that situation, I thought, guys, committee, we're going to get 3 or 4 people to apply for this. Oh, silly me. We had $3,000, 10 grants at $300 each, and received 23 applications.
Whoa.
23 applications. So we hope we can increase it this year, and we do want to continue with that. And we are about to request those business owners that did receive those grants to send us an update photograph that we can put and post on the website to show our progress with those trees. And as we're talking about that, or those potted plants on the sidewalks. And as we're talking about that, I will say that we are continuing with our recognition of residents' gardens that are visible from the streets and sidewalks, in recognition of monthly Garden of the Month. It's our 10th year for that, and we hope to have many beautiful gardens receive those awards.
Anybody else? I've got
yes, I have a comment.
Oh, go ahead.
As I was driving through the Dalles Friday night, I saw all of the cars parked on Second Street, side streets. It's refreshing to see the Dalles once again revitalized, and whoever did that, thank you. Kudos.
Yes, you'll hear about that in a moment. It wasn't just the Granada, it was many venues throughout the town had a collective hoot performances taking place all over the community. So I'll on that note, I'll conclude, and we'll leave it up to Ryan to discuss the Hoot Fest. Thank you.
Right.
I just had a quick question. What, you mentioned the tree giveaway at a grade school. Which grade school was the recipient of that?
I think it's Colonel Wright.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Ryan Beach wants to talk about the Dalles Hoot.
Evening. Ryan Beach. I am Vice President of the Dalles Overground and the co-director of the Dalles Hoot, the festival that we just had this weekend. And I'm excited to be in front of you guys for a positive thing, because the last few times I was here, it was my neighborhood, which you guys have done an excellent job of improving. And we've had years, I can't remember how many, it's been years now though, of an amazing neighborhood come back to life. But I just wanted to give we need to spend some time doing an after action plan and do some economic analysis, and hopefully we can present that to you in a few weeks. But I just wanted to do a quick thank you to this community. Like, people came out. It was busy all weekend long. All the venues were full. Like Tim said, parking was rough, but it was for a good reason. And we had multiple sponsors that trusted in us this first year, multiple community sponsors, businesses that trusted in us this first year, bought into our concept. We had over 40 volunteers helping us out. So 7 venues going, over 20 performances, over 400 each night in the Garana. And I think there was a heavy economic impact here. We had people from everywhere, and I'm on very little sleep at this point.
Mhm.
It's for good reasons. But we've had, the positive words I've heard from out of town folks seeing the Dalles for the first time, or seeing the Dalles in a new light has been. We'll have all those to present at another point to you guys as we're collecting them. We also did over 10 video shoots with the artist each day in different places around town that will be, once we get those edited and looking good, we'll be putting those up on a YouTube channel to highlight the community. We've got hours and hours of video footage, photo galore. So there'll be a lot more to share. But I wanted to thank everybody in this community for embracing a new event.
Thank you for all the work. Does anybody have any questions for Ryan?
Briefly, I do, if I may. Ryan, would you consider the first year of the Hoot a success by your hopes? And
Yeah, 100%. We had we didn't it was a free event.
Yep.
We had to register for the Granada, and I think we sold out most shows. We sold out Saturday almost a month ago, and we sold out Friday a couple weeks ago, and then we encouraged people to turn their tickets in if they couldn't come. And it was fun to watch me put the tickets out, and then they immediately would go. So people were watching it. So there was an excitement.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a success on all accounts as far as our organization went.
be interesting to know how many of those folks stayed in town.
We sold out. I talked to the Dalles, I put all the artists we put all the artists at the Dalles in. So I had been in close contact with them about logistics, and they said it was their busiest weekend since a high point in the summer.
Nice.
Everything was sold out on Expedia. We didn't sell out the whole town, but there was a lot of
Well, there's next year, right?
lodging. Yeah.
Are you inclined to make this a annual thing? Are you going to do it again?
That's the goal. We got to, one of the key points we did this year was made sure we brought in people that could do media during the day of the event. So we hope to be able to use that for bigger grants to, show some success in what we were able to do the first year. So yeah, we can keep raising money. We'll do it forever.
Thank you so much. It's great to have people with energy and passion for this town, and to Chuck as well. And there's many folks that do, but this was a particularly unique and exciting kind of weekend.
I like the owl idea too. And we could really tie all that in. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Okay, finally, we have Aaron Willis, who wants to talk about the Dalles watershed.
Hi, Mayor and councilors. Oh my gosh, the hoot was amazing. It kind of snuck up on me. I didn't realize it was happening, but I was there at the Granada and River City afterwards, both nights. Such good bands. Thank you so much. The Dalles got way cooler this past weekend. Okay, so I consider myself a fan of the city of the Dalles. So I wanted to let you guys know that we are trending on social media in not a good way. So there's this post, it's about the Dalles watershed. And I was here a few weeks ago, or a few sessions ago, when you guys brought the public works guy back to talk about the OPB article and his refute of that. And I think it's the same thing. I actually sent this to the City of the Dalles Instagram account. I don't know who runs that, but I just wanted to read the caption of it now and get your feedback. If I had better time management, I would have read that letter from last session and read this bill that they're talking about, but I'm hoping just to get some quick points from y'all. Okay, it says, and this is like tens of thousands of shares and likes and things like that, with a very like ominous music in the background. Okay. The city of the Dalles is trying to seize 150 acres in the Mount Hood National Forest to use the Dog River as a coolant for the half dozen massive Google data centers along the banks of the Columbia River. Proponents like House Representative Cliff Bentz, who wrote the bill, say the water will be used to serve the city's growing population. But the city's population has declined since 2020 in the same time frame that Google's water needs have risen exponentially. The bill would give the city 150 acres of land to fill the Crow Creek Reservoir with water piped in from the Dog River. The reservoir would be filled to 3 times its current size. Historically, when cities choose a municipal reservoir on Mount Hood, they close off the entire valley around it, much like the Bull Run Reservoir that feeds Portland. This would cut off public access to potentially much more than the 150 acres, since there are already several similarly sized metro parcels in the area. The bill, H.R. 655, passed the House without any public review or comment. Its passage would harm 5 Endangered Species Act listed runs of salmon and steelhead in the watershed, as well as all species migrating in the Columbia River. The bill would have the land and water gifted to a corporation that already received over $260 million in tax breaks for its facilities in the Dalles. So it's like, call your senators, and it's like a call to action. Yeah, I could spot a few things, but I just wanted to get to let you know this was happening and to get your feedback or fact check this. I didn't comment, but I'm ready to, what you guys say or what's
Who
true.
wrote that? Is there a name associated with that rather inaccurate diatribe?
Yeah, there is it's actually from a nonprofit organization, Bark for Mount Hood.
Mm-hmm.
And this person who, I don't know, Rowan Forrest, who I think is a Portland person, but it's like a nonprofit, like advocacy group, like protecting Mount Hood. I just quickly looked at the accounts. It's like posted by 2.
I'm a little familiar with Bark, and they never contacted the city, to my knowledge, to get our point of view on this. In the first sentence alone had 3 inaccuracies that you just read. I think we don't have enough time to get into all the inaccuracies that we've encountered here at the city regarding House Bill 655. There was plenty of public comment. I was in Washington, D.C. to testify myself. The fact that our population has declined since 2020 is not true. Like I said, there's so many things to address in that are just not accurate that I'm not sure what more I can say about it.
This 150 acres isn't
during my city
being given to Google.
Yeah, that's totally inaccurate.
I mean, it even within the caption, it like contradicts itself a few times, But anyway, I don't know. So
well, we appreciate you coming here and addressing this, because a lot of people make up their minds without getting our side of it. So and I'm glad you read Mr. Anderson's 4-page letter in response to the OPB article. So
yeah, I was here when you read it. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Well,
we're trying to. Our city manager is going to be addressing this issue when the city manager's report comes up, which is next, I believe, on the agenda.
Okay.
So I'm sure he'll go into a little more depth than I have.
Okay. And so this, I'm sure this will continue, as Google continues to grow here. And I remember I am interested in learning more about this. And it's, I guess just some kind of Google interest group. I think I asked about this before and y'all sent me to Mr. Klebs. And I think we never actually had that conversation, but is there a group like that, or a subcommittee?
A Google
interest group? Like, what's going on with Google? Everybody wants to know.
Yeah. I don't know of any group like that, at least locally.
I think that would be a fascinating public conversation. Absolutely. A meeting where just like, Google 101, and we're going to lay out everything. But thank you. My tongue is sore from being bitten over that post. So somebody who works in water and stream health and endangered species and all that, and a fan of all of those things, it's really frustrating to have our come after us willy-nilly and just get so many things wrong, inaccurate.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
watershed's already closed to recreation. It's our water source, or a big part of it. Like, it's not Portland's water. It's not connected to Portland's water. It has nothing to do with Mount Hood. It's maddening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One quick tip, I'll exit. Whoever, do you do the social media? You like stitch that, I bet it'll go viral with like the city's response or whatever. Cause like lots of people are sharing this. Like who cares about people far away or whatever? But I've seen it on so many local people's like stories and, commenting on it. People are believing this,
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, it is frustrating that people would believe it without checking with us, or at least getting our side of it. And
This is the age we live in,
I know. Yeah.
hmm
Well, I thank you for coming, and please keep your ear to the ground. And I'm sure you'll be hearing more, hopefully more positive news coming out on this issue. So thank you. And with that, we'll go to the city manager's report, number 7.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a lengthier city manager report than normal here, so please bear with me. First and foremost, I wanted to provide an update to the council that under our prior strategic plan, one of our actions under our public relations goal, action 6.6, was to develop a new brand for the city. We've had a cross-functional team of staff working on this with a contractor to develop a new proposed logo and brand. A survey has been sent out to all staff in the city council to solicit that feedback, which is now being used to make some of the final changes. Once completed, we'll unveil that, and we'll be issuing new items such as new business cards that will incorporate the new logo and style, as well as our updated email handle, which is much shorter than the prior one, and I think is appreciated by many who have to repeat it over the phone at times. So that's coming down the pipeline. I'll be joining the Dalles Community Outreach Team trip next week to Washington, D.C., and I want to let the council know that I may be absent from the March 23rd City Council meeting due to a spring break planned with my family. I'm traveling home that day, but my hope is to be able to attend virtually at the least, but wanted to put that on the radar. I had an update with the Wicks water treatment plant and its replacement efforts. This is a generational investment needed within our community and was identified in our recent water master plan update. We will be conducting a procurement process to bring on what's called an owner's advisor to help us navigate and decide the different contract delivery methods that may best serve the city in delivering this project. Some of those different project delivery options include construction manager, general contractor form of project, standard design, bid and build, or a progressive design build. As some of the councilors may recall, we had a positive experience with the wastewater treatment plant under a progressive design build approach, which is a 2-phase project delivery approach or method where we have a designer builder early on in the process that really works with us throughout the whole process to get an ideal project completed. The owner's advisor itself will represent the city's interest from project initiation through project completion, and they'll provide technical, financial, regulatory, and programmatic support through all phases of the project. This is a project, like I mentioned in the beginning, that we haven't seen in a generation, and we want to make sure that we are allocating the resources and the expertise to support city staff through the whole thing. This is a critical first step to replace the Wicks water treatment plant, and we will likely be bringing that back to council for award sometime in July. So planning for the year ahead, and want to give you a heads up. Similarly, the clerk will be sending out a calendar invite for a few special meetings. We have one tentatively slated for June 25th and August 10th. So please mark those out on your calendars or try and make time available. Those special sessions will focus on the wastewater master plan effort that is currently underway. Prior to one or both of those meetings, we wanted to see if there was interest from the council in having a tour of the wastewater treatment plant ahead of those meetings, or ahead of those work sessions, I should say. And so I wanted to see if there was interest around the dais here, and if so, we can get some dates over to you and see which ones might work best for everybody. Maybe a show of hands might be best for the city clerk.
Not too early.
8 o'clock sharp.
Knew that.
I also wanted to mention that I appeared on KODL last week, and one of the items that we discussed in depth was House Bill 655, introduced by Congressman Bentz. We're continuing to answer questions and clarify what this bill does and does not do, and some of the concerns that have been expressed around data centers and their development. A couple bullet points here that I wanted to highlight is that the bill will transfer 150 acres from the U.S. Forest Service to the city of the Dalles for municipal purposes only. This is less than 1% of the entire 22,000 acre watershed. This will better allow the city to operate and manage the water system, manage our watershed, accommodate growth, and address decreasing amounts of snowpack. This year in particular is a very good example. It does not change or impact existing water rights owned by the city, does not increase them or change them, and it does not authorize the actual raising of the height of the Crow Creek Dam, which is a project that's years into the future. Raising the height of the Crow Creek Dam is a project that was identified in our water master plans as early as the 1990s and predates data center development here in the Dalles. This is a project that we have been talking about and thinking about for many years and is designed to serve the entire system that we have here for our community. We have developed an FAQ correcting many of the claims that we've received about that the House bill actually does and again does not do. We have a couple of maps to kind of give you a sense, a better idea of where these acres are located, how they're kind of broken up around the Crow Creek Dam and the reservoir associated with that. And that we'll be posting that hopefully before the end of the week, if Amy has time to do it all. But I'm hopeful that some of that information will be helpful in addressing some of the narrative that's out there and bring a little bit more clarity over what we're doing and why it's a good thing for the city of the Dalles and its community. A few other items here. The Dalles Art Center and the city are partnering to move forward a art project at the roundabout over near Sunshine Mill on the east side of our downtown. This is a art project to replace the faded murals that are at the center of that roundabout. If you go on Google Maps and go use the timeline feature, you can go back in time about 15 or so years and see those murals because you cannot see them today whatsoever. And so this is through an existing contract that we have with the Art Center to facilitate projects such as this. And they've been able to leverage a private grant, some additional Google dollars, and city funds to complete this project that we hope to see move forward this spring and summer. That's already kind of been talked about, but I attended several of the venues during the Hoot this weekend, and I can say that it was a tremendous success. It was very busy in the downtown, and my hope is that it also turns into an annual event. Congrats and thank you to the event organizers and volunteers. And then finally, as you may have heard, the Cherry Festival is still moving forward. The carnival will be at the Lewis and Clark Park, and all other events such as the Cherry Run, the parade, carve show, live music, vendor market, and everything are still a go. I want to thank the Dalles Area Chamber of Commerce, local businesses, and community for continuing to support the event in its new location and format as the city's first streetscaping project goes forward. So a lot of investment, a lot of activity in our whole community, a lot of people coming together to continue these traditions and start new ones. And it's great to be a part of it. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for the city manager?
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to council reports. We'll start on my left with Council Runyon.
Just that I attended the Mid-Columbia Veterans Memorial Committee meeting today prior to Chelsea coming here today to talk about the stand down. That's it.
Council Richardson.
No report tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Council Randall.
Also no report this evening. Thank you.
Council Ring.
I attended the Sister Cities meeting, and there's a trip June 14th to the 24th, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, there's several high school students that have been selected to join us on the trip to our sister city in Miyoshi City, Japan. It's much like the Dalles. I encourage you to, perhaps look at the Dalles Sister City org website and whatnot for more information. And I do plan on actually going on that trip and being there representing the city. We had a meeting as well to update on our current houselessness and homelessness perspective. And that was it. Thanks.
Thank you. Counselor McLaughlin.
No report.
Mr. Mayor, I've forgotten, I should mention, I did go to the city police department today. I don't know how I could forget that. And met with our codes enforcement officer regarding the 2 abatements on our issue on the menu tonight. And the police chief was out at that time, but I caught him a little bit before our meeting and just had a discussion with him as well about a letter that we have received regarding motorized bicycles in the community. So thank you.
Thank you. Item 9 is the consent agenda. Items of a routine and non-controversial nature are placed on the consent agenda to allow the city council to spend its time and energy on the more important items and issues. Any counselor may request that an item be pulled from the consent agenda and be considered separately. Items pulled from the consent agenda will be placed on the agenda at the end of the action items section. Tonight, we have 3 items on the consent agenda. First is the approval of the February 23rd council meeting minutes. Second is a resolution assessing real property located on East 2nd Street for the cost of nuisance abatement. And third is a similar resolution assessing real property located on West 7th Street for the cost of nuisance abatement. I believe we have some pictures of the properties on items 9B and 9C on the dais. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'm going to ask this question before we do. Are the property owners in attendance tonight? Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, would anybody like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
And I'll go ahead, and second.
It's been moved by Counselor Randall and seconded by Counselor McLaughlin to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 10A is an ordinance amending our municipal code to enable the Oregon Department of Revenue Administration and authorizing the city manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Kara.
Thank you very much, Mayor Mays and City Council. You have before you here tonight General Ordinance number 26-1426 to amend the city's transient lodging tax ordinance. I just want to be clear right at the get-go, this proposed ordinance for tonight's consideration does not change the city's tax rate at all. That number has been 8% since 2003. And it is not proposed for changing here tonight. The proposed changes are actually to align with the framework that the state expects when local jurisdictions, of which there are about 35 throughout the state, when they want to take advantage of a program that's been available since 2017, to have the Department of Revenue, the state of Oregon Department of Revenue, take over and administer their transient lodging tax program for local jurisdictions, exclusively cities and counties. And so the ordinance here tonight is the very first step in a series of steps to make this ordinance DOR administrable. And I'll go down a list of some of the changes that are being proposed, and then I'll defer to our finance director to fill council in on some of the more day-to-day impacts that this proposed change might have, and hopefully all of the improvements associated with it. Some of the principal practical changes are bulleted at the bottom of the agenda staff report, of which I don't see a page number, but it's page 62. See a page number on your copy. Mine doesn't have that. That's interesting.
These bullet points here?
Yeah, that's the one. Returns and payments would be filed with the Department of Revenue on a quarterly basis, and that would be a shift from what currently occurs, which is returns and payments being filed with the Finance Department on a monthly basis. The Department of Revenue would apply some of its state law exemptions and procedures to the city's transient lodging tax. Obviously, those are all through state law. Disputes, if any, and deficiencies and redeterminations, all of those would be handled through the Oregon Tax Court rather than the city's appeal processes
And candidly, as the city attorney for the last 6 years, we haven't had a tremendous number of disputes that have elevated beyond the finance department, as far as I'm aware of. I think I've been involved in all, if not nearly all of them. And I can imagine it's about 5 in the last 6 years. And the final bullet point is that the Department of Revenue would transfer its net receipts to the city after deducting and reconciling some of its administrative costs. And so the city would retain its authority to impose our TLT and to set the rate by ordinance. And we would continue to decide how all the money that is collected is spent. But just day-to-day processing and most of the enforcement, frankly, would be taken into the Department of Revenue's offices in their business division. And the state already has a robust business division that's focused on a number of different matters, including the state's own transient lodging tax, which I believe is 1.5% this year. And so they already have these systems set up. And so in 2017, the legislature decided to further incent tourism promotion throughout the state of Oregon and its many jurisdictions, in recognition of the fact that a number of smaller jurisdictions, particularly, have had a hard time to administer their own local lodging tax program. This state decided to offer this effectively at cost for any city or county that wants to join. And again, one of the conditions is that the ordinance contains the ability, basically opting in to having this, the state step in. And so that's what is before you here tonight. A list of all of the changes are included in the red line. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions on any particular language. I also, before I pass it over to our finance director, I just want to mention here on the dais, and I provided a copy to the city clerk digitally. There is a last minute addition in Redline for the council to consider. Just on Friday, the short session ended and HB 4148 passed and was enrolled, and it hasn't quite yet been signed, and that's okay. It's only been, well, one business day. But it seems extremely likely that it will be signed. And when it is signed, it will take effect on January 1st, 2027. And I think everybody up here on the dais might be familiar with the historic split of tourist promotion services versus general services that the state requires for the expenditure of TLT funds by all cities and counties. The Dalles has historically navigated that with a grandfathered in 55.4%, as opposed to nearly all other jurisdictions, frankly, who have been locked at 30% for general services expenditures, and 70% of it has gone to tourism promotion. The Dalles has had 55.4% for tourism promotion as a result of having an early lodging tax ordinance. Effective January 1st, when this bill is signed into law, that split will now be 50-50. So 50% of all TLT collected will go to tourism promotion services and be eligible for expenditure there, while 50% will be available for cities and counties to use in their general fund for general fund purposes and general services generally. And so this all happened on Friday. The short session was a bit of a whirlwind, frankly. And so I didn't have a chance to incorporate this provision into the published version of the ordinance. And so there is an amended motion language as well at the bottom of that one pager. And again, the city clerk will include this in the minutes for the next packet in all cases anyway. But with that, that's my spiel on the legal side of things.
Thank you. Ms. Meyer, would you like to add?
Yes, I'd just like to speak a bit on the administrative side of this ordinance. By choosing to exercise the option for state administration, which this ordinance is not entering the city into at this time, it's giving the city the option to enter in at a later date if they so choose. But the city could significantly alleviate the administrative burden currently placed on staff. Under our current local system, the finance and legal departments are responsible for the full life cycle of the tax management. But state administration would shift the following backdoor tasks to the Department of Revenue: the processing of returns and payments. As the city attorney said, this would shift reporting from a monthly to a quarterly filing cycle managed entirely by the state. It would also shift enforcement and collections to the Department of Revenue. The Department of Revenue would use its statewide systems to identify non-filers, issue demand letters, and pursue collections through tools like liens and garnishments. The state would also perform in-depth audits, leveraging its broader data to ensure correct reporting. It would bear the burden of conducting the local hearings and appeals, as any tax disputes would shift to Oregon Tax Court instead of staying local. The Department of Revenue would also handle day-to-day inquiries and provide filing instructions for lodging providers. So that's some of the administrative work that's currently being held within the finance department and the legal department right now that could potentially shift to the state if we were to enter into an IGA.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Meyer or Mr. Kara? Councilor
Just-
Runyon?
Just to clarify, there is a fee schedule with the DOR, but the idea is that fee is projected to be much less than what it's costing to take care of all these records ourselves.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Oh, Councilor Ring. I'm sorry. Councilor Ring and then Councilor Richardson.
Sure.
If this ordinance gives the option to enter into the IGA, who makes the final decision if this ordinance passes tonight? To city council, or does?
So the city council will be authorizing the city manager to enter into an IGA. We haven't reached that step of the process with the state yet. We've seen template IGAs, but we haven't sat down and negotiated. We're not actually able to sit down and negotiate until we adopt this ordinance. It's sort of it's a high bar. But once we get there, we're confident that it'll work out in our favor in a collaborative way, like not that we're going to hoodwink them or anything. Every other IGA, all 35 of them are available online and they're nearly identical. And in the ways that they do differ, they're not really material. There's no difference in, for example, what one jurisdiction pays the state. It's always the same. It's like, this is our rate. And I think without exception, everybody seems to be just fine with that. And so tonight's motion actually includes that additional authorization to authorize the city manager to enter into that IGA in a form that's approved by the city attorney for legal things, not for business things. But the business things are all handled by the state, more or less take it or leave it already. Yeah.
And if we've only had 5 or 6 disputes in the last however many years, I don't remember the exact time frame that you gave, but if there's only been 5 or 6 disputes in that amount of time, most of the savings you're saying is related to just general office staff time, managing the record, not so much managing disputes.
I would say my 5 or 6 example, just in the last 6 years, would be things that have formalized into an official dispute, gone down the official pathway. By and large, in my experience, and I'll defer to our finance director for current day experiences, but by and large, in my experience, it's people not filing their returns. And it's basically, I'm like a collections officer, effectively. I have to keep sending threatening letters and to justify why we think that they owe X when they think they owe much less than X. And eventually, before it sort of develops into a us versus the city kind of appeal, of which there have been like, a small handful, there's been a lot of problem payers over the last 6 years, and it's candidly a tremendous amount of staff time, at least in my office. I can't imagine how much is in the finance department.
Okay, and we're saying that this IGA, or having the Oregon Department of Revenue take over the collection of the taxation, they would be doing that work for us.
Yes.
That's correct. They would send us a remittance quarterly.
Okay, and then what do we do? What do we do if there's somebody locally with like a short-term, obviously a new hotel we're going to know is going up, right? But if there's a short-term rental or something like that we discover along the way? How does that how does this allow the city or the state to resolve that? Who's the
So
authority?
that's a great point. So currently the city subscribes to a service known as host compliance. I think for like 20 something thousand a year. All of that, the gotchas and the, hey, you should have had a permit, and hey, you should be paying your taxes, all of that transfers to the state. The state has a tremendous amount of information on all of the users of those systems that the city, frankly, is not in a position to have. All of it's given to the state. They take the wheel. If there's any enforcement that needs to happen, they're the ones who enforce our ordinance, which is why the ordinance needs to be amended in a way that can be enforced by the state. And so the city would also, and I kind of just thought about this, I'm a little embarrassed to say, but we wouldn't really need host compliance anymore, which is another savings of $25,000 a year, because the state would be handling that enforcement as well. And so that's a great point. Thank you for giving it to me. Yeah.
Trying to think out loud.
Yeah, I loved it.
Can add, that's part of that assessment as to, the cost of this service versus the benefits, the cost savings to the city, savings in staff time. And it's a decision that could be made, shortly in the future as we do that assessment. It also could be done far into the future if we have other circumstances that come up and we need additional support, or we need to offload some of that work with a major project or a staff transition or something like that. So this positions us nicely to be flexible as things come down the pipeline.
One last question. Are there examples of things that the finance department staff would be able to focus on more readily if they weren't chasing things down, so to speak?
Sure, there's a number of things, but in part, we're working at several software improvements, and so making sure that staff have the time available to fully implement software improvements, as well as honestly, even scanning takes a lot of time, and so freeing up staff to maybe go towards a more paperless system. All of these things take time, and freeing up time from this help.
Okay. And is there one last question? Are there other ordinances that would be impacted by this? In other words, last year, or not last year, but the year before I was on city council's 2014, there were changes to the short-term rental ordinances and things like that. Does any of this impact that in the future? Is there a ripple effect or follow on things that we need to take care of?
Not in any material way that would result in a subsequent ordinance amendment. There might be some procedural hoops that we will work out with the state when it comes to the way that the information that they have is shared with us. One of the things that has come up a lot in our understanding of the transient lodging tax program generally is that the information that is gained from it really can only be used for transient lodge tax enforcement. So the information, as our finance director knows and as our city manager knows, the financial information of the hosts, all of that is under pretty strict lock and key. It's all confidential and exempt from public disclosure. And so the only, to answer your question very candidly, I don't believe that there's any other council ordinance amendments or anything that would involve the council in the future that would be a ripple effect from this ordinance. It seems pretty quarantined just in this one chapter of our code.
Councilor Richardson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate and support the relieving of staff of sort of unnecessary administrative burden so that we can focus on things. My concern is, or question I should say, is whether staff has gamed out and thought through whether this change would transfer or increase the burden on the lodgings owners, right? Like, does it make it harder on the people running a small business in town to have the state enforcing this?
I mean, I think, and I'll, if our finance director has any comments, please. But I think having a quarterly return might be a benefit to all, if or nearly all, of the current transient lodging tax providers. We currently require it monthly. And if somebody told me I had to do something 4 times a year instead of doing it 12 times a year, I might say, that sounds great. Let's do it 4 times a year.
Fair point. Thank you.
As far as enforcement goes, I'd like to think I'm pretty good at it. But I'd also like to think that it wouldn't take me as long as it does, but it inevitably does take me quite a while to do it. So some of them may not appreciate some of the enforcement if there is a need for it, but maybe they will figure out that the state's here to collect their taxes, right?
Perhaps I should know this. Is there a burden imposed by having to go through the Oregon tax court rather than the city appeal process?
I have no idea. I've never been through either because it's never come up.
There was an Oregon tax court, I have to say.
Yeah.
I've never.
There's an Oregon bankruptcy court as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe the Oregon tax court is, I could be wrong. I believe that's where the Board of Property Tax Appeals lives in BOPTA and through the county's property tax system as well. I could be very wrong about that, but that's my understanding.
I think one additional element that doesn't directly answer your question, but if we did enter such an IGA to have the state conduct some of these services, we can exit it too. We're not locked in at some point if it becomes, onerous to, operators or not in the best interest of the city. So there's that option there.
Yeah.
Do you think it's worth spending a little time to think through or find out or formulate an answer to that question, whether it would impose a burden on our small businesses or not?
For me, I think that's a great question, and I think will certainly be considered when we're deciding whether or not to enter into the IGA.
I'm wondering if it's worth asking prior to us giving you authority to enter into an IGA.
I can also tell you that I will take it into consideration if that helps address your concern there. I think, as the city attorney mentioned a moment ago, this ordinance sets us up well to engage with the state and explore these different options. With this commentary and feedback from council as we go through that decision, we will evaluate that question with them.
So you'd sort of be taking on the responsibility of that sort of unanswered question yourself, rather than bringing it back to us and putting it on us.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just saying that you're willing to heft that onto your shoulders and take responsibility.
Well, I agree with you that it's an important aspect of taking that on or not, is not only on the best interest of the city, but on the short-term operators that we have within our limits.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I guess I would say, if I were personally to support the package deal, so to speak, the ordinance and the authorization to execute, it would be with the explicit understanding that you would hash out what it means to go to the Oregon tax court. And, I'm just envisioning somebody, instead of coming down to the city and saying, I've got a problem, I need to iron this out, being sent through, a 43, button response on a phone tree, and then ending up having to go to Salem or something.
So, Councilor Richardson, Mr. Mayor, may I just respond to that point? We just a few moments ago, we had our trial court administrator, Ryan Beach, here, and he administers the 7th Judicial Circuit for the state of Oregon. Very frequently, in my role as the city prosecutor, and in this very room, we'll have our municipal court. We'll have people sitting out here for 20 or 30 minutes in front of Judge Corey before they realize that they are not in the right place and that they need to get across the street to the Wasco County Circuit Court. And to give you an idea, we get that all the time. People will come here and people will go there thinking that they should be there too. And when the city's judicial court, right, which is in a lot of ways what we're talking about here when we're talking about an appeal in the city, in a lot of ways, it's much easier to think about it like going down a 43-point phone tree. But at the end of the day, they should end up in a court. Whether the court's administered via phone, I don't think it would be the case. But people have no problem, it seems, getting down to Washington Street or the courthouse, as opposed to coming to the city. And again, in the last 6 years, it hasn't happened once that it's even come to the city council for an appeal. Not that I don't think that could happen, sure. But just wanted to give you a sense of perspective on what we're talking about. It seems awfully rare, and the state has been doing it for a lot longer, a lot more effectively than the city, I think. So
I appreciate that. It's been bit of perspective. Thank you.
Yeah.
The only other comment, just real quick, is the host compliance software costs is a little over $4,000 as in our budget, just to make that clarification.
I understood it to be a lot more. I apologize for that misinformation. I didn't know that.
Do we happen to know if the governor is going to sign this? Has anybody heard one way or the other? I'm pretty in tune with what's going on. I haven't heard anything on this.
I haven't heard any reason to believe that it won't be signed into law. But I just couldn't tell you that because technically as of one business day after it was enrolled, we have this meeting. So, yeah, I see no reason why it won't be. This was a contentious bill in the last session, and it squeaked in the short session with the support of LOC and the local interest lobby. Yeah.
I think there was a lot of back and forth between those different parties, and I think there's generally broad support for it. I think it would be unexpected if she doesn't.
Okay. We'll hold you guys to that.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Ring.
You know that I'm like pretty sensitive to small business and making changes or, they can be pretty burdensome. They don't seem burdensome to the rest of us because it's like, you have to fill out another form or, pay a $20 fee. It doesn't seem that burdensome, but I know that it is, and it can be. So one of the concerns, I guess one of the things that I would ask is that is there a world in which we could pass this ordinance, authorize the negotiation, get the information, provide our small businesses more time to provide us input as a city council, and before we execute the IGA come back to city council for consideration, allowing us to.
Absolutely.
I think I would, not to, steal anybody's thunder. I think it would be responsible of us as a city council to our small business to, stand up and say, hey, we recognize that. I think it supports both our small business in the Dalles. It also supports our city staff. We recognize that it is burdensome, right? We need to find a solution. I would hate to, a year from now, I would hate to have a small business owner come back and, it's like, hey, here's the result of this. And we get into another discussion about, not to pick on something, but short-term rentals and things like that, right? These are folks that are not, multimillionaires going out and conducting business in the city of the Dalles, right? So,
some of them are.
well, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it would serve them well, and I think it would serve city staff well if we could come back and.
Yeah. I wrote this in such a way that if adopted tonight, it can be going into effect and we can proceed independent of the IGA's authorization. In fact, it literally baked into the ordinance and nearly almost all of my changes, proposed changes will say something like if DOR is the administrator, then, or if the finance director is the administrator, then. And so it was written for that prospective ability for the city to pull out of that IGA as well as to sort of address this dynamic here. Absolutely. So a revised motion would be if anybody wants to make one at any point. I just looked at it on the mayor's copy. I'm sorry, Rich. If you just want to, be moved to, and then you get rid of everything after. So everything that starts with authorize and ends with, and you basically just want to jump to adopt general ordinance. So move to adopt general ordinance, and then everything else is the same.
Which is the third line down.
Yeah. You just skip over the first authorization of the IGA.
Oh, Councilor Runyon.
It's not that I don't trust the state, but quite often I've been proved correctly, especially in my previous life as a county commissioner. I'm going through all the paperwork here, and one thing I would like to see somewhere is there, in the actual papers, if this went forward, is there a method of termination if we decide the state is not keeping their promise and is charging more than is reasonable? I mean, it looks like 5% now, but they might need another road tax, who knows? So that's that's the one thing I was looking for. What would be involved if we were wanting a future council even would want to cancel this agreement? What would do? We just bring it up as simply as an ordinance resolve situation, or how does that happen? So I think that's an important thing to have in any document we sign into, is how do you get out of it? And we often see that in things brought to us. So that's my thought.
It's a 90-day notice for termination.
What's that?
It's a 90-day notice for termination, as it's been presented in
That was not in any of these papers.
It wasn't. Yep, absolutely.
Okay, thank
No,
you.
absolutely.
Other than that, I think Councilor Ring had some good thoughts there. I'm not sure how we resolved that tonight, but I'll let smarter heads figure that out.
What's the timing on this? Can it easily be moved to the April or March 23rd agenda, or April 9th? Is it?
I think what I think the city attorney was proposing that we can move forward tonight.
This can be adopted
by
tonight.
striking those first few
Right.
sentences, which would require staff to come back and receive authorization from the council before entering into the IGA.
Correct.
We would still accomplish positioning ourselves to engage the state as needed, and making the adjustments considering the House bill that was recently enrolled last week.
Correct.
Which we would still like to we'd like to see that happen tonight.
Okay, does everybody understand our city attorney's recommendation to revise the motion?
It's just to adopt the ordinance as amended, right?
But the language, somebody's going to have to read it correctly. So it read, move to adopt general ordinance number 26-1426, blah, blah, blah. Striking everything from authorized through the word to.
It's option 3, right? Alternative 3.
No, it's on the supplemental one pager that I left on the dais. I handed you a copy of right before the meeting started. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask again, does everybody understand what the city attorney has recommended it to revise the language on the motion? Does everybody understand it? Does everybody get it? Okay, so does anybody want to make such motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to move to adopt General Ordinance number 26-1426 as amended by title only after revising the Dalles Municipal Code 8.04.160A to provide that all money received by the city from the tax is deposited into the Tourist Promotion Fund, and that at least annually, the tax administrator transfers to the general fund all amounts not required by Oregon law to remain in that fund, with the amount retained in that fund not to exceed 55.4% unless state or federal law requires otherwise.
Well done, Councilor Randall.
I will second that.
Been moved by Councilor Randall and seconded by Councilor Richardson to adopt the ordinance 26-1426 as amended by title only. I caught that. Does anybody want the ordinance read in its entirety?
No.
Good. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance by title only?
General Ordinance number 26-1426, an ordinance amending the Dalles Municipal Code, Chapter 8.04, Transient Lodging Tax, to enable Oregon Department of Revenue Administration under ORS 305.620.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Is there any other business to come before the city council?